The New York Jets, the most talked about 5-7 team in the history of the NFL, travel down to Jacksonville, Florida this week to take on the Jaguars. The Jets are currently installed as 2.5-point favorites in this game on BETDAQ. 38.5 is the total. Now, we mentioned the Jets are 5-7, but believe it or not, there are still people talking about playoffs for this team. That's because the remaining 4 games, starting with Sunday, are all against teams with losing records. But if you saw the Jets play last week, in their 7-6 win. I'm trying to think of the proper adjective for that win. I don't think ugly quite gets it. Their 7-6 win over the Arizona Cardinals. If you saw that team and then you hear these people talking about playoff possibilities, it doesn't make much sense because the Jets, they're absolutely awful right now on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, couldn't score a point last week until they finally benched Mark Sanchez after his 3rd interception of the game. But because Tim Tebow was inactive for the first time all season with broken ribs, they inserted Greg McElroy. Now, McElroy didn't do much, 5 of 7 for 29 yards, also threw an interception that was nullified by a penalty, but he did lead them on their only touchdown drive of the game. Jets ended up pulling out that win 7-6. The only team in the NFL with a worse quarterback situation, it appears, than the Jets is the Arizona Cardinals. So most people, I guess, thought McElroy would get the start this week. I certainly thought that was going to happen. It seemed like Rex Ryan had so many opportunities already this season to bench Sanchez, and he hadn't done it, that when he finally took that step last week and they ended up winning the game. I mean, the guy he put in instead of Sanchez ended up driving the team down the field, a 69-yard touchdown drive to win the game. You thought, or at least I thought, that would be enough for McElroy to get the start this week. But Rex Ryan just announced that Mark Sanchez will be starting once again this week on the road against Jacksonville. Now, Jacksonville has a bad defense. There's no question about it. One of the worst defenses in the NFL. So Sanchez will have every opportunity to put forth a good performance, and he won't have that home field crowd booing him. He will have the sparse crowd in Jacksonville looking on. Now, the crowd in Jacksonville is expected to be a little less sparse this week because Tim Tebow, of course, is coming to town. Tebow, if you don't know, is Jacksonville's favorite son, you might say, the most famous person in the city of Jacksonville, from Jacksonville, still lives there in the offseason, family still lives there. Jacksonville, of course, less than an hour drive from the University of Florida where he started in college. I live in Jacksonville. We're broadcasting right now from Ponte Vedra, about 30 miles from Everbank Field, where this game will be played on Sunday. And I can tell you that when Tim Tebow was made inactive last week, and it appeared as though he would not be playing this week, or definitely won't be starting now, but might not even be playing, some of the air was sort of let out of the balloon here in Jacksonville. 10 days ago, the ticket sales had already exceeded any other game this season, so they announced they were removing one of the tarps. But we'll see. We'll see if those ticket sales for the Jacksonville Jaguars this weekend continue to exceed expectations, because Tim Tebow, we don't know if he's going to be a clipboard holder this week or worse. He might be in street clothes because he is dealing with those broken ribs. Now, I'm not alone. You're not alone if you're skeptical about Tim Tebow's injury. Remember, he had this same injury a couple of weeks ago when he was dressed and apparently ready to go against the New England Patriots. Yet he was made inactive last week, and is it a coincidence that in the first game Tim Tebow was inactive? That's the first time that's the first time Rex Ryan pulled Mark Sanchez and inserted Greg McElroy, or inserted the backup. I don't think it's a coincidence at all. You know, we've talked all year about how the Jets seem hesitant to get Tebow involved, or at least as involved as they said they were going to get him when they acquired him. Makes you wonder why they acquired him, because he has definitely brought an element of distraction. And I'm sure that Mark Sanchez has felt some of the pressure. And really, if you're judging from his play, Sanchez has crumbled under some of that pressure. So the bad that could have come with acquiring Tebow, the Jets have experienced. They really haven't experienced the good because they haven't put him out on the field very much. I think that might be by design. I have a feeling that Rex Ryan, maybe Tony Sparano, the Jets offensive coordinator, these guys are not believers in Tim Tebow. And I honestly think that Rex Ryan had not pulled Mark Sanchez before last week because he feared, what if the offense started moving? I mean, if he had pulled Mark Sanchez in one of Sanchez's many dismal performances this season and put Tim Tebow in there, and the offense has shown a sign of life like they did last week with McElroy, well, then the quarterback controversy that Ryan already has on his hands will just be magnified by 10. Obviously, Greg McElroy, not nearly as big a name as Tim Tebow, has not had the type of success Tebow's had in the NFL. So Rex Ryan was able to quietly bench Sanchez last week, and then quietly, or sort of quietly, put Sanchez back into the starting lineup this week. Now, as for the Jags, they're absolutely terrible. 2-10 on the season this year. there was some optimism surrounding the Jags a couple of weeks ago, heading into last week anyway, after they picked up their second win of the season over Tennessee. Really, the game before that was their best performance of the season. They almost beat the Houston Texans. The offense had come to life there, at least for a two-game stretch under Chad Henne. Blaine Gabbert, of course, had been the quarterback in Jacksonville for 20-some-odd games before finally getting the hook. Injuries pushed it right along there. He left the first quarter of the Texans game with injury, but Chad Henne came in, lit it up in that game, lit it up in the next game. Last week, however, against the Buffalo Bills, the Jags got blown out, quite frankly. That game was never competitive. Henne did not look good. He looked like the guy that Miami let go in the offseason. And I don't have much hope at all for the Jacksonville Jaguars this week, at least not on the offensive side of the ball, because the Jets are so bad on offense that even though the Jags have struggled on defense all season, I think they'll probably be able to limit the New York Jets offense. But you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars offense right now, aside from the fact that they've moved out of the basement in total offense rankings for the first time all season, or at least for the first time I think since week 2, the Jaguars have occupied 32nd and dead last in the league in total offense all year. But now they're 31st in the league in total offense, so some signs of improvement there. But aside from that, I don't know. You look at the Jags offense this week, listen. The Jets, their weakness this season on defense has been stopping the run, and the Jags are not going to be able to run the ball this week. They were down to their third-string running back last week, Rashad Jennings. Jennings sustained a concussion. So this week, Jacksonville's going with Montel Owens, who throughout most of his NFL career has been a special teams player. That means if the Jags are going to want to win this game, or if they're going to want to move the ball, they're going to have to pass the football. And the Jets, say what you want about them, but they've been good in the secondary this season. Jacksonville's most likely going to be without their best wide receiver, Cecil Shorts, who sustained a concussion last week. So I'm not sure how the Jags are going to create offense here. I think this game could be very similar to last week's New York Jets-Arizona game, which is why I lean towards under 38.5 here. I know 38.5 is an incredibly low total, and when you're betting under a total like that, anything, turnovers, defensive touchdowns, special teams touchdowns, a whole bunch of things could mess it up. But if there's ever a game that looks like it's going to be 13-10, something like that, this game looks like it's going to be it. Because as we said, the Jets have been so bad on offense, can't see them scoring much on anybody right now. And the Jags are so bad on offense themselves, and the Jets average on defense, good in the secondary, that, I don't like either offense in this game. I do like under 38.5, and I do expect the New York Jets to get a road win in this game. So I'm afraid you're going to hear more, at least for the next week, more of this New York Jets playoff talk until they lose their 8th game and are officially knocked out of that playoff race. We're going to keep hearing that stuff. I don't think it'll happen this week. Lean towards the Jets minus 2.5. Also lean towards under 38.5.